Hey Crestwood, happy Wednesday to you all. Hope you all are doing well. Hope God is blessing you in surprising ways, in ways maybe you aren't even aware, but you are just feeling God's Spirit surrounding you. There are so many things going on in our life and in our world that can be scary, that can stir up fears of the unknown, and yet we trust that God is with us in the midst of it, and I hope you are feeling that in tangible ways today. I'm honored to be with you this morning to bring you this devotional for this Wednesday, March 25th. You know, it's spring. It's the season of new life. It's the season of resurrection. It's the season of looking to all the creative things that God is doing, the renewal, the restoration. And yet death is still very much a part of that. And no, I'm not talking about Kentucky's basketball team, even though you could say that that fits into that. But just today, I learned of the death of a beloved congregation member. An email will be going out this morning about that if you haven't already received it. There's another beloved congregation member who's under hospice care. I learned that one of my former dogs is probably at the end of her life. And so death is sort of all around me this morning, even as I look out the window at the budding trees and plants that are in Lafferty Garden here at the church. It's so much the cycle of life, right? That when there is death, there is birth. And we are certainly in the season of thinking about death and the meaning of that from a church standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, as we move closer to Palm Sunday and Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, all the events of Holy Week, and ultimately his crucifixion. And so it's funny how in life you sort of waver between crucifixion and resurrection, depending on what's going on. As we see the signs of resurrection in God's creation around us, I am mindful this morning of the role that death plays in that, because for something to be resurrected, first it has to die. And that's the reality of the life that we live. You know, so much of us wants to push back against death, to see it as something unnatural, to see it as an interruption, to see it as something that, gosh, we didn't think this was going to happen. And yet death is such a natural part of life. And it's from that death that God can bring resurrection. Jesus says in John's gospel, he says, "Very truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." And I think about all the fruit that is born in this world because something dies. And I think about that not just physically, but also spiritually. What in us maybe needs to die in order for God to bear fruit through us? I always wrestle with that, especially around this time of year when life feels so busy and the calendar is so full of things. And I like that because I like to stay busy. I like to be needed. I like to think that a lot is going on. But when I do that, what am I holding on to? What am I trying to keep alive that maybe needs to die, that maybe needs to lie fallow like a field in order to be more productive in a new season? And so I'm trying to find time these days to sit with that, to sit with all that's going on and say, what am I keeping on life support just because I need that? Is it a certain activity? Is it a certain relationship? Is it something going on at the church that I think needs to keep happening, even if it doesn't need to keep happening? How are we taking inventory of our own lives to realize, sometimes by pruning away things that are no longer fruitful and letting those things die, God can bear much fruit through that. I'm always amazed how anytime I do a funeral, there is always new life that comes through that process. There are always ways that the person who has died lives on in the legacy that they left, in the lessons they taught, in the stories that are told about them. Much fruit is born even when our earthly existence ends. And so I hope you experience that today. I hope you see the places around you where new life is springing up, even if something or someone is dying or has died. What continues to live on in you, around you, because something had to die? It's such a natural part of life that we fight back against, but so much resurrection comes from things that happen around us that cause death. I think of a leaf falling to the ground and now the leaves that are budding on the trees. I think of all the ways that God works through death to bring about new life, to help us bear fruit. Today, Crestwood, even though I am thinking a lot about death, I am hopeful that God is doing new things in my life, in the life of this congregation, and even in the world. That's the promise God has given us. Resurrection can only happen if something dies. It's the grain of wheat that falls to the ground that bears much fruit. I hope today, Crestwood, you are experiencing new life in wonderful, divine, life-giving ways. God bless you, Crestwood.